Good morning and welcome to our lesson today, composition. So I want to go through the composition, the last week's composition, and then after going through the last week's composition, I'm going to give out a heading or the beginning of this week's composition. And I hope that once we go through something, once we talk about something, you should not repeat the same thing. And when you get your composition books, make sure you read what I have commended. For example, I tell some people, check on your handwriting, check on your spellings. I do the corrections to the spellings. I tell you you didn't follow instructions because your first paragraph is wrong, or you didn't come up with a conclusion. People repeat the same mistakes. Like people cannot come up with the spelling of there for place and there for possession. Someone cannot come up with the correct spelling of aunt and aunt. Somebody cannot even write the correct spelling of hard. Like you don't know the difference between. You don't know the difference between hard, head, and hard. And when I come to this, leave alone even spelling. I've realized that most of you do not know even tenses. You don't know the tenses. Somebody is saying, I heard a voice in the bush. I heard a voice in the bush. Had here is not a regular pronoun. It's not a regular noun. It's not a regular verb. It does not take an ed. It is here, and the past tense is had, and the past participle is also had. So here is the beginning of last week's conversation. The sun was already up by the time I woke up. Full stop. All of a sudden, I remembered what I was supposed to do. While I was teaching pronouns, I said I for first person is always written as a capital letter. It doesn't matter if it is coming between the sentence or it's beginning a sentence. So you have I was supposed to do. I remembered what I was supposed to do, and then they have yada yada. You're supposed to continue this composition. What I said in the previous lesson, I said when you are given a composition and you're supposed to continue it fast, before you continue the composition, read the beginning to understand. Once you read the beginning to understand, what comes in your mind? What do you want to write about? What do you want to write about? Now, once you have read the beginning of a composition, definitely you come up with the topic, whatever you want to talk about in your composition. And make sure that whatever you want to write in your composition marries the beginning of the composition that you have been given. If I say it marries the beginning of the composition, like it goes hand in hand. So you're supposed to come here with the continuation. And if you are keen, if you listen to the lesson I say, your continuation can't be more than 5 words or 6 words unless it is an expression. Let's say unless it is a figure of speech. So if you are simply going to give here a statement, then make sure it is not more than 5 words. Unless you want to give me a figure of speech, a giver of speech. So you say the sun was already up by the time I woke up. All of a sudden, I remembered what I was supposed to do. What was I supposed to do that day? You can say I remembered what I was supposed to do. You say my brother. Maybe this is my continuation. My brother was tying a knot. My brother was tying a knot. My brother was tying a knot with his long time girlfriend. Girlfriend. Now, if my continuation is that my brother was tying a knot with his long-time girlfriend, then definitely my heading composition is going to be what? A wedding ceremony. So I'm going to come up with a wedding what? A wedding ceremony. You say, brother was going to tie a knot with his long-time girlfriend. That is if you want to write about a wedding ceremony. But if I don't want to come up with a wedding ceremony. Let's say I want to write about a football match. You say what I was supposed to do. I had to attend a football. I had to attend a football what? I had to attend a football match. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had to attend a football match. So if I want to attend a football match, then my composition is going to be a football match. Are you getting that? What you had to do, maybe you had to go for a trip, maybe you had to go to school because you're having a school trip. Then whatever you want to write here, whatever the continuation is, it should marry whatever you want to talk about. And if I say it should marry whatever you want to talk about, see, I don't mean like they're getting in a marriage, like a husband and a wife. What I mean is that they should align. They should align. They should mean the same thing. They should be talking about the same thing. Once you've come up with a continuation, I said it shouldn't be more than 6 words, 5 words. Let it not be a whole paragraph. Now, some of you continuate this first paragraph with more than 5 other lines. So somebody has a paragraph from here to here. This is a whole paragraph, a whole paragraph. That is wrong paragraphing when it comes to composition. Just paragraph your work, just continuate your composition with not more than 5 words. And I'm repeating, I hope you listen to this. Don't continuate your composition with more than 6 or 5 words, unless it is what? A figure of speech. A figure of speech. If I say it's a figure of speech, it's an idiom, it is a colloquial expression, it is a proverb, it is a simile, because you can't cut them to suit the 5 words or the 6 words we are talking about. Having talked about that, once you have identified what you want to write in a composition, you come here and then you make points of what you want to talk about. If, for example, my continuation is a football match, I want to talk about a football match. I ask myself one thing: how many vocabularies do I know that fit a football match? So, for example, if I want to know I want to write a composition about football match, then you should know. Then you should know about a referee. Then you should know about a coach. Then you should know about if a referee, should know about a coach. You should know about back players. You should know about back players. You should also know what is to kick off a match. To kick off. You should also know what is to dodge. You should know what is to dribble. If I want to write a composition about a football match, you should know what is to dribble. You should know what is to pass. I should know what is the center line. You should know what is the center line. You should know what is a goal area. If that is what if I'm coming up with a composition as a football match. What do I mean? Never choose a heading of a composition you are not conversant with. Because if you aren't conversant with a certain topic, I don't see how you are going to write that composition. The best way of writing a composition is always choosing what you can. If you know, if you choose what you can, then you are in a position to come up with a very good composition. Once you've come up with the vocabulary you want to use in your composition, ask yourself, how many expressions do you know? Or how many figures of speech can you figure out to put in that composition? Most of you choose composition headings just for the sake of choosing them. Like you don't know anything about this composition, or like you know very minimal about a certain composition. When you choose a certain topic or a heading of a composition, how about you make sure that you know 3/4 of the heading you are choosing, or you can come up with a very good composition 3/4 of the what you have chosen. Don't just come up with a topic for the sake of coming up with a topic. Now you come up with the expressions. If I want to talk about a wedding, then how many expressions can you figure out? Do you have 5? Because that's the least number you can have. Do you have 5 expressions? Or do you have 5 figures of speech you can put in this composition? Like if it's a wedding ceremony, you say my brother was tying a knot with his long-time girlfriend. Tying a knot, tick. That is a figure of speech. Now tell us what happened. Did they tie a knot? Do you know the vocabulary if it comes to a wedding? Do you know the vocabulary of a wedding? Do you know the bride? Do you know a bridegroom? Do you know the maids of honor? Can you come up with do you know the correct flow of ideas when it comes to this composition? Don't just choose a composition for the sake of coming up with a composition. The best way of writing a composition is choosing the heading or a topic that you are conversant with. So once you've come up with the vocabulary of your composition, you come up with the expression, you come up with the expressions. After you come up with the expressions, come up with a guideline. If I say a guideline, ask yourselves about the composition. What is the importance of a guideline? A guideline helps you come up with the correct flow of ideas. Like you know, this A follows B, and B follows C, C follows D, D follows E, like that. You wouldn't be jumping into ideas. And while I was making a composition, especially those ones that were writing a composition about a wedding ceremony, which is good, which is like at least you got marks for coming up with the correct topic, because the topic marries what? Marries the beginning. While I was making a composition, I realized that most of you do not know when a bridegroom enters the bridegroom comes, and when a bridesmaid come. If it is in a wedding ceremony, whoever comes first is the bridegroom, and then the bride comes later. It is not the other way around, like when the bride comes and then she sits and waits for the bridegroom. No, the bridegroom waits for the bride. And then, while I was marking your commission about a wedding ceremony, what I also noted is that some of you tend to get confused along when you are writing the composition. Somebody is going to say, the bridegroom, she entered the hall. The bridegroom entered the hall. She was swaying her hips from right to left. Like you are referring to the bridegroom, who is a male person that is getting married, as the she in the composition. When it is he is the he. So what happens if I mark your composition? I realize one thing: you don't know what you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, then there is no need writing that. Choose a topic that you're conversant with. It is a simple thing. If you want to be a good composition writer, you simply follow instructions. Now, while also marking your compositions, what came out is your conclusion. When I was here, I talked about this, and I keep on repeating this. The conclusion of a composition should be written on its own. You don't mix it with the other parts of a composition. Just make sure that it is on its own, even if it is a simple sentence. So when you come to the end of your composition, there are some phrases that conclude compositions. You should be conversant with this. Those expressions that complete compositions. So when you've written your whole composition, like you are on your last paragraph, you put a full stop, then you come to the conclusion where you write it on its own. It is a paragraph that stands on its own. It's a paragraph of a composition that stands on its own. You don't mix it with the other paragraph. Even if it is a single line, it stands on its own. What also came about in your compositions is this. People do not know. Like I want to write here grandmother. My word is grand. Now grandmother cannot fit here. I say grand, and then I come to the end of the sentence. I begin another one. I say grandmother. So you are coming up with grand, and then you are coming up grand, and then grandmother. What happens? You end up forming two different words: grand and then mother. If you are writing your composition and then you want to write here the word grandmother, and grandmother does not fit here, just leave the space. Once you've left the space, come here and then write the word grandma. Just write the whole word like you are writing grandmother. So I'm having grandmother here, instead of having grand and then mother on the other end. The problem is I'm talking about this, but when I'm going to mark the next composition, people are going to repeat the same mistakes. That's the problem. I don't know if you listened to the video, but you should be listening to it. And then another thing that came out in your composition is when you separate compound words. If I say compound words, what do I mean? These are words that are formed by more than two words or one word. Somebody writes myself. You have that. Somebody is writing everybody. Like you are having a space in between the word. Everybody is formed by two words. We call it a compound word or a compound noun. So it should be everybody with no space in between. Like here you should not have myself with a space in between. You should have myself. As a word with no space in between. But if you write this becomes two words, and it is not the correct, especially if you are referring to a reflexive pronoun. You can't separate them. If you minimize the simple mistakes, you learn to crawl, then you walk, you stand, then you walk, and then you can run. Writing composition is the same way. If you learn to just follow simple tidbits, like to begin a composition well, like to conclude your composition well, you can't cut words the way I talked about grandmother. You can't choose a topic that you are not conversant with. You'll be improving. At the end of the day, you'll be improving. You'll be making a step forward. But what happens if you repeat the same mistake you've been talking about? That brings me to your paragraphing of your work. And I want to repeat about the first paragraph. You shouldn't even think about repeating the same mistake. You can't conclude the composition with more than with a whole another paragraph up to here. You don't do that. Now, when it comes to paragraphing, most of you cannot even paragraph your work. So if my composition began here, if this is my composition to begin here, this is the beginning of my composition. Let's say this is my book. So if my composition began here, where should be my heading? My heading is here. I'm going to say my heading is a wedding, let's say. And then I underline using a ruler. Some of you underline the headings of composition with just a plain hand. So you end up with a line like that. A wedding. You know, it shows how irresponsible you are. It shows how you don't care about your work. And then once you've come up with the heading, let's say my paragraph 1 is beginning here. So my paragraph 1 is beginning here. Let me write my paragraph 1. I write my paragraph 1, I write. Then once I've written the paragraph 1, maybe my paragraph 1 is ending there. At the end of every sentence, you put there a full stop. Once you've done that, make sure your paragraph 2 begins there. Like, if someone looks at your work, you know how to arrange your work. You get marks for this. So my second paragraph is going to begin here, and I'm going to write, and then my second paragraph maybe ends there. And then I'm going to kick off my third paragraph from there. So my third paragraph begins from here. It comes. If somebody looks at my work, my paragraphs begin on the same line. You come up with a very good and neat composition. I won't repeat the same thing about your handwriting, because people are supposed to write well. And how do you write well? You simply shape the letters of the alphabet the way they're supposed to be shaped. I'm going to give out the conclusion of a composition, and then once I give out the conclusion of a composition, I'm also going to give out the expressions you can try to use in this composition. Then you people are going to come up with the correct heading, and you're going to write. Once you choose the heading, remember to choose a heading, or remember to choose a topic that you are well conversant with, a topic that you can write and write well. Don't repeat the same mistakes. Once you get your composition book, read what I commented. You don't understand anything I've said, always you can ask. You can always ask. Like, you commented something and I don't know the mistake I did. Can you, madam, tell me what I went wrong? I'll tell you where you went wrong. But don't repeat the same mistakes over and over. Have a good day.